Resident Evil 9 is a banger, but I doubt you needed me to tell you that. What I will be doing is basically putting out a statement. This is action horror done right, with Leon being the action and Grace being the horror, and it basically doing things that I commonly dislike, like stalk enemies, really well in such a way that I, well, liked them for once. And my dislikes of the game, well, actually, it's one specific dislike, one big, fat dislike. But that's later on in the video, so we can't talk about it yet. So the game begins at an FBI building, then we pan to Grace, who is writing up a report and looking over an article of Raccoon City. Then her boss asks her to come to his office, in which he tells her to go to the Wrenwood Hotel, the place where her mother died, and basically telling her to face her past, and she's one of the best analysts they got, so she's got to check out this crime scene, as they've found another body with someone showing signs of Raccoon City Syndrome, which they don't know it's called that yet. He also, I add, sends her with no backup and no gun provided, as the one she brings is one she bought herself, which only brings me to the conclusion that this guy either hates her or he's just working for Victor and Zeno. Now in control of Grace, we get to see how good looking this game is. We speak to this cop to get in, but Grace first struggles to explain why she's here, because, well, her mother died here. And when in, we get to experience this nice slow burn intro, with creep factor from this disturbing painting, a toilet Jane Sunderland couldn't resist, and a photo of Grace with a key on the back, inviting her to a room, which when taken, the door behind her is locked, making her take out a gun, so with no other choice, we gotta make our way to the room, with this creepy radio talking about a body, and a bed full of photos, with one of them making her have a flashback to the tragic night her mother died. Where stuff begins to go wrong in this flashback sequence is when Grace answers a call by a mysterious person, which is an operative sent by Victor Gideon. After that, the lights go out, her and her mother leaves the room, and her mother hides something behind this painting. Then the operative slimes this guy, and is seemingly taken out by Alyssa, but then comes back and slimes her too. And then the operative falls over and causes a fire in the hotel. Flashback over. Time to check out what's behind that painting. We see the looming shadow of Gideon, and then we get what's behind that painting. A document explaining that hooded guy was stalking Grace and her mother for a while, and a DVD. We also see the cop from before again, but he turns and begins to attack Grace, even taking a good chunk out of her arm, with him finally falling out a window. Then we see Victor, chilling and listening to classical music, sat down calling Grace the Chosen One, with one of his goons locking the door behind Grace. We also get to see how massive he is, and then he uses his signature move on her, the chokeout. Now the intro's done, I can finally point out this really good intro's fatal flaw, and that is, you're not able to skip it when replaying the game. Which, after your second or first run, you really just want to get to the care centre as quick as you can, where the fun is at, and not be here for 30 minutes for something you've already experienced. Alright, we switch to Leon, who is investigating another body with Raccoon City Syndrome, the condition him and Sherry has. Sherry mentions Victor as a person of interest, and that cop we thought has went missing, so he should check out the Wrenwood Hotel. Then he drives off in his Porsche. Arriving, Leon spots Victor with Grace on his shoulder, and Victor spots Leon, so Victor decides to start infecting people with his dart gun. Now in control of Leon, there's a chest that you can buy guns and upgrade them at, but I'll talk more about it later, as it only appears here because I've already completed the game. Now we get to absolutely bully these zombies as Leon, kicking them, parrying their grabs, and parrying nearly everything. I think you can't parry bullets though, but I might be wrong about that. Remember to keep it sharpened, as if it's not sharpened you can't do the finishes or continue to parry with it. Also, if you're wondering how to do those cool gun finishes, it's by being close to the zombies while shooting them when they're close to death, or just using the Requiem on them because it's most likely a one shot. After that, Victor got away, but Sherry tells him about his care centre he's likely at, so he heads there after being told by Sherry that they don't have much time left. Now, the switching of characters was something I originally thought would be a complaint for me. It's just not with Leon or Grace, although you could argue for a selectable separation between them, but I think this would take away from how in the care centre Grace's or Leon's actions affect how the place is for each other. I also have no problem with where they choose the switches for each campaign. My problem is with the switch to Chloe, you know, the little girl in the orphanage, but when we get there I'll speak more on it. Alright, back to Grace. She's upside down having her blood drawn and she manages to free herself using the vial drawing her blood. We also collect the deadliest weapon in the game, the glass bottle, but I'll explain later why. We also meet the hag, or the girl. Crazy how people used to think this was Grace's mother. Actually, that's kind of reasonable. Look at her. She's munching on a corpse and then starts chasing us, but stops at the safe room because she burns up in the light. And that's what I like about this game, Stalkers. They have a reason not to enter the safe room, unlike, the other games. Then she goes up in the ceiling and crawls off. Kinda reminds me of necromorphs hiding in vents. We go back into the room she was in to collect a screwdriver, but the trolley we used to get up to it makes a bunch of noise and lures her back. I managed to sneak past her, but she bursts out the room to chase us again, and we run back to the safe room, but she ends up destroying the light for the room. Right, going to the room that needs the screwdriver to get the fuse that opens the way out of here, the hag appears and blocks our path. Usually you can just hide in this corner and she'll just walk right past, but this time she spotted me, and I have a little chase with her for a while. Then in the fuse room, I get the fuse, but the hag breaks the light in the room and chases us towards the fuse box, which I plug in the missing fuse and almost escape. Then we cut to Leon again, driving towards the care centre, and, once inside, Leon is told by a nurse that Victor has been expecting him. Leon is led to a meeting room while he's being watched by a secret camera. In here, we get to see a photo of Victor and his team, which lets us see that Victor didn't always look so scaly, but still looked villainous. Then a woman on a speaker says code 6, which I can only assume either means the zombies are getting out, or Victor's going around infecting people, because Leon's here. Then the nurse from before says something about mass hysteria, with her being chainsawed by the doctor zombie. Now, people may feel bad for her since she's new and Leon didn't help, but let's be real, she's working for Victor Gideon, who looks like a legit villain. She should have known better, and she probably knew what was happening to the people at this care centre, so I don't feel too bad. Anyway, we parry the chainsaw zombie and take him out, allowing us to use the chainsaw, and oh, is it fun to absolutely rip these guys apart. Sometimes it can get stuck inside a zombie, which, if you're not fast enough to put them down, they can pull it out of themselves and wield it. I even saw this one who started to slide across the floor, with it coming towards me, which, when you're in the corner, can become a real sticky situation. Now, to get out the room, Leon chainsaws the lock and then kicks it down. Along the way, we see what would have been one of the raccoons you break to unlock the third tier of upgrades on Leon's weapons. Leon also witnesses the Grace cutscene from a different perspective and starts blasting the hag with the rec room till her head goes pop. Is it alright to show this gore scene on YouTube? Grace tries to calm down and Leon introduces himself. Then Victor locks down the place as Leon tries to question Grace on why he kidnapped her. With limited time, Leon hands her the requiem and Leon goes on to confront Gideon, who's just down the hall, with Victor telling him that she won't be getting away, and asks Leon to have a talk, with Leon trying to shoot Gideon, but he was just a bit too slow. Man, I gotta say, the guy playing Victor does a great job. Anyway, doing his signature move, Victor starts examining Leon, with Victor talking about Umbrella's curse, referring to Raccoon City Survivors Syndrome. And back to Grace. We gotta go to the safe room to progress. In it we find an antique coin used to get upgrades for Grace, a typewriter, and a safe box. After your first playthrough it will contain charms you got on a previous playthrough, and bonus weapons / charms, like the Infinity Knife, Phrase Needle, and the Rugged Rookie Charm. Out of these, I reckon you shouldn't get the Phrase Needle, because normally you don't have enough ammo to shoot it in the first place. But if you have infinite ammo on, yeah, probably get it then. What I would recommend unlocking is, the Infinity Knife, because infinite durability is just well worth it. Also, about charms, they take up space in your inventory, but they're well worth it. Like the Stakeout Takeout charm that makes your knives better and lasts longer, the I Spy charm which makes it more likely to survive fatal damage, real useful on Insanity, and also more firepower with the Leon charm. There's also the Raccoon charm, but that's a deluxe edition thing, but it's good because it's increased crit and precision. Alright, we progress into this dark room and flick on the lights and notice this dead guy on the floor and this blind girl in a room who's wondering who's there. Then Grace questions the girl on the empty room next to her, with the not so dead guy warning Grace to stay away from her. And Grace getting the West Wing key card from him. Now, why does he warn Grace to stay away from her? Well, it's because the hag was once friends with Emily, the girl there, and was the girl in the other cell, and escaped from here, looking at that smaller hole left in her room. And the hole in the ceiling tells us that the hag has tried to come here, probably to get Emily. Also, the hag was probably the one who attacked him, but it could have been someone else, because why didn't she just munch on him like the zombie earlier and just take Emily? Moving on, we use the West Wing key card and see the chef. The chef zombie is a beast wielding a cleaver, and it can take more than one Requiem shot just to take him down. So, my recommendation, just run past him, because there's an easier way to take him out later. And because that Requiem shot can be better used on another zombie soon. Along the way we encounter the light switch zombie type. These guys are obsessed with keeping the lights off, and this can be used to our advantage to sneak past them. But this will leave a path blocked due to the narrow hallways that they're in. We also pick up the dining hall pistol, but soon we'll be upgrading it as there's a better pistol on the second floor, guarded by the singing zombie and two other zombies. Now this is the place where you want to save the Requiem bullet for, as the better the base pistols is here, and because on Insanity the dining hall pistol was moved to the east wing, where the cleaner and the death zombie is, so it's just quicker to get this. Now use that Requiem shot on the singing zombie whilst unnoticed, as her scream will alert the two other zombies with her and affect your aim. Also, I think it's easier just to fight or slip past these two other zombies to grab the pistol, then just fight the singing zombie. Now we have a pistol with 10 shots, and a great chance to stun, making bullets easier to save by just running off, or just stabbing, or just using the hemolytic injector on the zombies falling on the ground. Anyway, one thing I want you to remember about special zombies, like the singing one, is that they drop antique coins, so there's a reason you might want to just take them out as Grace instead of avoiding them. Further up we encountered this one-armed woman zombie. Now, she is special, as when zombies usually die they leak out a puddle of blood, which means they're dead. But she's one of these rare cases where I've seen a fake death, and I think there's only maybe 2 zombies that do this in the whole game. Her, and another one further up. Anyway, to escape the care centre, we need these quartz blocks to open up the door out here. One of them being in a room with a zombie roaming around with the lights off. Past him is the puzzle and the code. The code was written down on half a page, but the other part was torn off. To reveal it, we need a pencil, which will give us the rest. Then we can open up the puzzle. Also, in the room is a box containing a gem that will open up the place where we can use our antique coins. Near that place, the chef has begun roaming the hallway. We'll deal with him soon. In the room, we get the East Wing key card and the prize cabinets that take the coins. I'd recommend getting, more inventory space from the thing for obvious reasons, and more health if you're playing on Insanity, because it's a must do to survive. Also, on Insanity, there's this red knife that gives you 10 extra blood on kills. It's not much, but it's something. One more thing about this room is that the roulette table can give you coins if you begin to recognise the pattern it's doing and shoot the number on the board it will hit next. I also accidentally discovered that these little mini pots have items in them. Alright, time for the U-swing to get the hemolytic injector, a device that one-shots most zombies when stuck in them when sneaking or when they're staggered. It also prevents zombies from turning into crimson heads, but more on them when we see one. Also, in the same room there's a puzzle where you got to put organs in this zombie body so you can take off its wristband. But I don't understand why Grace just doesn't slip off the wristband. Like, it'd be really easy. Further up we collect the blood collector. This device allows us to craft bullets, hemolytic injectors and more through the blood of fallen zombies somehow. You start with 100 but it can be upgraded to 200, once through the prize cabinet and once after your first playthrough through an unlock. Throughout the care centre there's these buckets that you can collect blood from and these puzzles you gotta do to unlock more crafting recipes from this machine with different blood samples. For some reason, for someone who usually finds puzzles hard, these weren't too hard for some reason. Next, we sneak past this patrol of zombies and get to see the cleaner zombie, who I would recommend killing, as she'll go around cleaning up blood that's left over from dead enemies, and well, we need that blood for crafting, so, you know, murk her. And in the same room is the zombie who really hates sound, and why the glass bottle is so deadly, as he can one-shot most zombies when it's chucked near them, and for obvious reasons, sneak past him. He also drops a blood packet, which can be used to fill up the blood collector, or be kept for later. I wonder if he'd hit the singing zombie if he heard her. Alright, time to take out the butcher. This is really easy now, as all you really need is the injector and the right timing to sneak up on him. This also removes him from getting in the way of an important location later, so it's good to take him out now. It also allows us to get the pantry key, but on Insanity, this key will be located in the locked level 1 room in the East Wing waiting room. Inside the pantry, you get a lot of supplies and the stakeout takeout charm, so it's good to come here. But on Insanity, the room will have a lot of zombies, so be cautious. Then, I go deal with the West Wing cleaning lady, cause she's got a big tub of blood that I really want to use for crafting. Now to the second floor of the East Wing, we see it's guarded by 2 zombies in a conversation, which shows, like the other zombies we've been facing, a glimpse of humanity and the habits they show as zombies. Going into the room ahead of us, we see it's got a lockpick, which allows us to open up locks around the care centre that have rare metal within them, which allows us to craft Requiem ammo. Also here is another puzzle containing one of those quartz cubes we need. Down the hallway we pick up a level 1 armband used to open up doors around the place, with an encounter with Chunk, a massive zombie dead set on eating Grace, plus a lot of swearing. He'll stalk and roam this hallway, which contains 2 locations we will need to get to. He also can't stalk further because he's too fat to fit through the door frames in this place. Now, let's say you want to take out Chunk. How would you do that? You could shoot him, which I assume would take a lot of bullets. You could sneak up behind him and use a hemolytic injector 3 times. Or you could use one glass bottle. Yeah, you can take him out with the blind zombie. It's difficult. It took me like an hour to do it properly and a guide, but it can be done. It seems that the trick is to get Chunk out to chase you downstairs once you have him roaming the hallway, and the use of 2 bottles, one to position the blind guy and another to send him to Chunk when he's coming back down the hallway, and boom, Chunk falls apart, giving you the charm that makes you more likely to survive death, a must-have on Insanity difficulty. Alright, now that that's done, time to explore those locked level 1 rooms. The one in the East Wing contains some supplies, Requiem bullets, and the blood that unlocks more things to craft. Here's a quick solution to it. And in the other locked room in the East Wing, next to the computer that does the puzzle, is a journal entry by Victor, saying that his master's work is coming to fruition, that being Spencer, and the girl, I think he means Grace as it's 2004, is the key to the puzzle. Also, that he was able to gain some of the medical records and genetic data. Although lacking, he could use this, which I'm assuming he used this genetic data to make a clone, i.e. Emily. The room also has another blood sample for more things to craft. Here's a quick solution. Next locked room is in the west wing, past the dining hall, has an extra inventory slot upgrade, which makes the visit well worth it. Last lock we can open lets us into a safe room, the garage, and stairs. Don't forget this wrench over here is important. Now the garage contains one of the organs we need for the other wristband in a puzzle box, and when you try and leave, a zombie driving one of these things comes driving at us. Just shoot the zombie that's driving it, and when on insanity, just shoot that weird metal grate thing as well. If you go upstairs you find another one of those machines that analyze blood, the zombie angry at noise, one of those blood samples, and the code for the bar and lounge safe. There's also a report in here about the Wrenwood Hotel, cleaning up their evidence there, with the fire being helpful. Plus a background check on Grace, saying that she really only goes from work to home, making it hard to kidnap her. Which probably makes it more likely that her boss sent her to the Wrenwood Hotel because, well, Victor and Lot wanted that. Now to the east wing to use the wrench. Along the way we see our first zombie turn into a blister head. A stronger, more dangerous zombie that comes to be when the head isn't destroyed or not taken out by a hemolytic injector. That's why using them on dead bodies on paths you frequent is important. At least, if you're Grace, that is. We will ignore them though, using the wrench we got to get the second organ, and then going down the hallway Chunk emerged. Down it is a code for the safe in the room with the organ body puzzle, and in this room is another singing zombie, with a note that explains that she and the other singing zombie had a rivalry going on before they turned. The note also talks about the zombie who hates loud noises, and then we grab the acid that opens up the puzzle to the other room. So going back, we see Victor. He tells Grace he liberated her when she asks why he kidnapped her, then talks about her setting Elpis free, and that his master made her, which I'm in two minds about if that's true. Then Grace proceeds to escape Victor by being, smart, and Victor goes and interrogates Leon, I assume. Okay, the puzzle is pretty simple. You use the acid, and then look at the photos around the room to see the symbols that should be on the puzzle. When it's opened, you get a quartz and a notebook by Spencer, which basically explains memory transfer using the T-virus. Also, the solution to the organ box. So we complete that, slot the organs into the zombie that revives it, with us taking it out to get the wristband. Using the wristband, it opens up a part of the east wing that has the last puzzle for the last quartz. And the solution is right next to it. The thing is, the buttons are in Braille, and, well, only Emily knows that. But it's all good, since this dead guy over here has a wristband that can free her. Then we go and get Emily, but not without first blasting a requiem shot into this conga line of zombies that would have been trouble for later. Now with Emily in the room, Grace leaves her in here to solve the puzzle, with Grace holding off the zombies. With one of them turning into a blisterhead, I think it's usually the zombie with a suit on. Now Emily is done, and she has the quartz, but the hag is back, and kidnaps her, and then goes down a big hole in the ground, in which Grace must go down too. Then we switch back to Leon and Victor, with Victor missing the assignment when interrogating Leon, and trying to rizz him instead. But Leon doesn't like his bad breath, so Leon cuts himself out the rope, and then melees Victor, and then Victor runs off. Right, now it's time to see Chunk's brother. This is where you get your first shotgun, and picking it up begins the boss fight. Now, this boss fight returns the mechanic of him not being able to fit through door frames, and eventually being able to break it. So, running into these door frames gives you an opportunity to blast away at Chunk's brother, and when enough damage is done to Chunk's brother, you being able to do a melee prompt, which gives you a lot of damage. There's also some environmental destruction when Chunk's brother enters rage mode and begins breaking new paths in the area, with him even trying to jump up to you when you go up into these places, but falls down when you shoot him a few times and gives you a melee prompt. I like this boss fight. And I gotta say, it's honestly great the way it shows how much Leon is a beast compared to Grace. Okay, now we can explore the care center, and as Leon we can open up these warped cabinets that Grace couldn't, which it contains, just some basic supplies. But before we continue, has anyone realised whilst playing Leon's campaign the odd change between RE9's melee and RE4 Remake's melee? You see, when Leon melee kicks in RE9, the attack will solely affect the enemy it hits, with them stumbling back and sometimes staggering the enemy behind them, with a rare chance of hitting the enemies to its side, while RE4 Remake's melee affects enemies next to the kick, making them stumble, which makes it great for keeping hordes of Ganados at bay. Keyword being hordes, as compared to RE4, in RE9, Leon faces less enemies, nothing ever like the village section, which is probably why the melee affects like one enemy at a time, which honestly, more enemies would have just bettered the action focused part of the campaign, while showing how much beast of Leon is compared to his RE4 counterpart. What I'm really trying to say is, they should have just kept that RE4 style melee, whilst keeping that cool environmental stuff. Okay, back on track. You will notice the zombies that you take out as Grace are also in the same state when playing as Leon, with some of them turning into Crimson Heads. Something interesting to point out is, if you never take out Chunk, the one roaming the hallways, as Grace, he still disappears when playing as Leon, which is weird. Alright, time to track down Gideon. We fight off a bunch of zombies, and I discovered that shooting Blisterheads in the legs is a good idea because they're highly staggerable there. And that they have this leap attack that they can do that goes over stuff, which makes the ring around the rosy technique around furniture not so useful anymore with Crimson Heads, and that a perfect parry on a zombie leaves them up to a vulnerable melee finisher. Leon gets into Victor's office and Sherry hacks in, with them discovering Raccoon City Syndrome is linked to the T-Virus. There's also a redacted document with Alpis on it, and a photo of Grace, showing an unknown link between them. Switching to Grace, we see her now in the basement, which is the main hideout of the Hag, and that the care centre staff did try and take her out, but, well, since she's alive, it didn't go down so well. Further in we find where the Haggers took Emily, and Grace tries to free her, but we need 3 fuses to do that. Also, the Haggers began stalking now. What's interesting about these fuses we collect is, whilst also opening paths to progression, is they also make temporary safe zones by turning on the lights and blocking parts of the level so the Hag can't roam through them. Down here is a big saw-like machine to extract blood from the zombies, and we get what can only be described as Evil Within reference, which won't be the first time in this game. Also, you can drain this pit to collect the blood from it. Alright, with all 3 fuses, we free Emily, run from zombies, and get off in the elevator whilst the Hag chases us up, and we drop the elevator on her, severing her hand. Anyway, Grace and Emily escape the care centre, but to fully get out of here, they gotta get this guy the key to this helicopter. The key is underneath this swag-looking office of Gideon's that has a document telling him to unlock Elpis before 2040. Inside this underground place we see a big tank full of blood, 524.3 litres of blood, and these zombies inside vats. We pick up the keys to the helicopter and see Victor speaking on the dog and bone to Zeno, telling him that Grace is the one that they've been searching for. Then activates a self-destruct sequence in the place and runs off. Whilst we try and escape, we can pick up a fire extinguisher that acts like a hemolytic injector, but sprayable, and keeps the zombies off. Alright, now out, Grace and Co can escape, only to crash, which switches us back to Leon, where we have to do a sniping section to keep her safe as she tries to escape into this church. Note that in Insanity, 2 zombies will end up attacking you here at some point, and that a Mr. Raccoon bobblehead is somewhere around here. Then we get to do a holdout section with a bigger version of a Blisterhead that kinda looks like one of those enemies from The Last of Us. Anyway, to take him out, you gotta shoot him in his pustules, that, when broke, make other zombies near him turn into blister heads, dead, alive, and even without heads. When that's done, we swap to Grace carrying an injured Emily, with her resting Emily on this box as the hag returns, as, well, this is their showdown. To take her out, we got to activate these 3 cranks to restore power to open up this big light to burn her, and when that's done, you defeat her. But success is short-lived, as Emily seems to die, only to revive, and then mutate. And then Leon has to gun her down, but doesn't fully kill her. But Grace doesn't know that, and is saddened by not being able to save her. She gives the Requiem back to Leon and walks off, with us maintaining all the bullets she's collected, which is cool. Leon begins to suffer the later stages of Raccoon City Syndrome, and Victor meets with Grace, convincing her to come along with him and Zeno to free Elpis. Now Leon's got to make his way to Raccoon City to save Grace, and now that we're in Raccoon City, I gotta say they did Destroyed City pretty well. Next we get a chase sequence by a giant spider that turns into a boss fight, with this spider popping out of different places. In its second phase, it shoots webs at us, and I think these eggs that spawn baby spiders. Now, how you're gonna take it out is pretty simple. Blast till she's stunned, or use this explosive to blast her and shoot in that weak spot on her bum. And when enough damage is done, a cutscene triggers of Leon finishing off this nightmare for arachnophobes. Okay, now for Leon to progress, he has to break this giant gate blocking his way to the centre of Raccoon City. To do that, he has to collect detonator parts so he can explode it. He even finds a, I'm gonna have to say this slowly, BSAA camp that, when turned on, alerts Zeno and Victor, with Victor being told to go deal with him. This is also where we get introduced to the merchant box and the kill counter wristband that tracks the amount of zombies Leon kills and gives him points to use on that box. With this, we can buy supplies, new gun/unlockable ones, armor, and upgrades. The weapons I usually rock with is this shotgun, the silenced pistol because it's got more damage, silenced rifle with no scope because of that charm that ups the damage. Other ones I'd pick as well is that unlockable SMG, which is a beast, the rocket launcher for fun, and that one axe from you know who because it has more parrying frames. There's also a pistol that uses the same ammo as the Requiem, Zeno's gun, and the Matilda. Alright, the zombies of this area are obviously the ones who survived the blast of Raccoon City, long dead and looking more shriveled because of it. But they can still wield weapons and turn into blister heads, and even the bigger ones like in the care center, which at first made me confused because I thought the virus Gideon made was the only thing allowing him to do that. But later on at Ark, I'm pretty sure there was a note about experimenting on the zombies in the city, and that's why they can do these things. Or maybe I'm getting something wrong and they could always do this, but we never saw it in RE2 and RE3 Remake. Now up on the roof we get to see the 3 areas we gotta go through to collect those detonator parts, but first we have to go through this flooded garage with enemies, and whatever this place is with a blisterborn, to collect 2 fuses to open up that garage door, and when it's opened, Leon finds these dead BSAA guys and watches the headcam footage to find out Zeno blasted them. Also, Sherry tries to dig up anything on Zeno, but nothing can be found. Now to one of the 3 areas we gotta go to find the detonator parts. First, the petrol pump. In it we get a second chance to use the chainsaw whilst the place is on fire and fight a chainsaw zombie, after which we fill up this gas can that can open up a necessary area, and a side one that takes us to a BSAA container that contains a charm for snipers that makes using no scopes on them great. Oh yeah, the other 2 containers, one has a repair kit for the detonator and a motorbike, and the last one has some supplies. Okay, the place we need to go to next is this set of apartments, which is full of, former BSAA members who are now zombies. Some still use guns, which makes them quite dangerous. We also get to see a zombie that holds a grenade and goes boom. And now on top of the apartments, we see the BSAA set up mortars. And well, they're still manning them, so we're gonna have to duck and dive through the buildings to avoid fire. Or you could just parry them if you're that good. But remember to take them out because you can use those mortars too. Alright, thirdly and finally, the toppled over skyscraper, which you need a gas can to get over there. Pretty cool area, as where you're walking on is the window part of the skyscraper, and you can shoot it to make the zombies fall through, or yourself if you're not careful. The final part of this section is collecting the last part of the detonator and freeing up this window cleaner to get back to the floor, which you have to get through a section full of zombies to free one side, and another with a chainsaw zombie, but with no chainsaw this time to battle it. Once it's free, we descend and fight off some zombies tagging along, and they end up breaking it during a cutscene, with us running out of this sewer to get back to the gate so we can blow it up and take this sweet ride all the way to RPD. But along the way, Victor decided to bring dogs for us to shoot at, and man, I gotta say, I'm glad these dog zombies are only used for this section, because I've grown a hate for any animal enemy in a game for some reason. I think it started with Dark Souls 3. Anyway, Victor tries his signature choke, but gets his back slashed, which leads to his doom when shot. Now at the RPD, we slow down in pace after all that action, as it's a revisit to a classic location after the nuking. It's also got the Wesker Goon photo that has been moved, which can only lead to the assumption that Wesker returned here and moved it. It also has a message on the back that hints to a code for this locked briefcase that gives us the sunglasses charm for the Requiem that makes the last shot ever more powerful. The place even has a puzzle left behind by Barry that rewards in expired zoo tickets. You also get to see that one tofu guy from RE2 if you stick around for long enough. There's also the return of the humble Jack, as we need it to enter the East Wing to save Grace. Zeno explains countries' militaries from across the world have come to Raccoon City for Alpes, which is the last virus created by Spencer, which they believe is a mind control virus. And that's why it had to be nuked, to hide it. And, of course, she's the key. Then we're given the section I hate in this game, where we play as this girl, Chloe, who looks similar to Emily. In this section, we hide and we run from these creepy bald clones with evil eyes, which is such a slog to replay after the first playthrough, as it was interesting the first time round, but not the second. Come on, Capcom, what are you doing? In it, we learn the clones are suffering from mental abnormalities from trying to transfer memory through Spencer's DNA, and that Chloe has shown improvements over the other clones until, well, a scientist puts her asleep and says she's showing signs, which I can only guess means she's experiencing what the other clones went through. Because of this, Grace blames herself what happened to Emily and her mum, as well as Zeno and crew were looking for her to open up Ark. Then she calls Leon mum, as well they kinda look similar, and then Zeno sicks Mr. X on him, which chases us through RPD for a bit, and then disappears. Leaving RPD, we can look at Kendo's gun shop, where we can find either his daughters or his bones left there. And you can also find a shotgun here if I can remember it right. Now, the Mr. X boss fight is swag. We have him doing all sorts, regular swipes and thrusts with his claw that you can parry, that one attack of him jumping off the car which I find really hard to dodge. Also his heart is his weak spot. There's also that one attack where he throws the car at you, or swipes it aside. He can also do this grab attack that follows into a cutscene, but I failed to trigger it because I'm too good. Also, the melee finisher is an excellent way to finish off this boss fight. Right, to the orphanage, as it leads to Ark, through a sewer and an old train station. Also, here's another bit that reminds me of The Evil Within. Within the train, we get attacked by a vine of Plant 42. That was accidentally dropped outside of Ark, that's why it's here. Just shoot the flower bit and it should take them out. They also have this one vine that sits on the floor that tries to grab you if you're not careful. We also fight a giant flower head with these vines that try and slap you. I'm not too sure if you can parry them though. You know the deal. Shoot the boss in the weak spot, which is the flower, till these barrels fall out and you can shoot them to burn it up. Now we're in Ark, and yo, that's Tricell barrels, here with some umbrella stuff. Inside, Leon sees vats of liquors and a security room. Looking at it, we see that Grace and Xeno are together in this room. Then we're stormed by some human enemies in tactical wear. They try and take cover to flank and shoot, but this encounter with these guys we see are pretty easy to deal with, as if we chuck a double grenade there, they're done for. But the second room of these guys is a bit harder due to them setting up an ambush. But what's really interesting about this room is you can break open this pod with a lick inside to take on the guys in this room. But keep an eye out for that shield guy. Further up we get a document confirming that yes, they did use the T-virus Gideon made on the zombies in the city, and that the BSAA have failed to take out Ark. Kinda obvious. Also, we get the prices of some BOWs. Down the line, we get to fight Hunk, or not Hunk, depending on who you ask. If it's me, I think it's him. The boss fight against him consists of trying to parry him and hit him with your hatchet. Hey, he even tries to do the neck snap thing. I also think he's somewhat immune to bullets, as when I've tried to shoot him, it doesn't seem to affect him. Anyway, when he's close to death, Leon just slashes him in the neck with his hatchet. But if you've seen those videos, his body moves afterwards, so I don't think he, got KO'd. Now, time to save Grace. Well, Xeno asks her for the password for Alpis. Xeno does all of his slick dodges, but it seems to progress his disease on his neck. Then Leon slashes him in the arm and gets elbowed in the neck, with Grace threatening herself if Xeno harms Leon. And then Leon manages a way to escape into a different part of the facility, with him passing out in this garbage dump, and later waking up with his disease growing ever worse, and then having to boost Grace into a different part of the facility, so she can open up another way for him to escape. Now back as Grace, we encounter Lickers. Stealth is important against them, as she's no Leon, as distractions or acid/molotovs/injectors are her only options against them. Now to free Leon and get these orbs to open up this door. Also, don't forget to get the acid bottle recipe and the last inventory extension. Also, be careful fighting the zombies around here, as fighting them means alerting the Lickers in the area. In the room opened by the orbs, we learn that the discs kept by Grace's mother, that it was an interview of Spencer, and he regretted everything he did, which is surprising after his speech in RE5. I assume that they're going to make some changes in an eventual remake, after "I was to become a god" thing. This is also where we would switch back to Leon, but we're gonna finish off the rest of his speech. He then explains Grace is actually a normal orphan kid, which I don't fully believe, but that's fine, and lets Grace be held by Alyssa Ashcroft. I wonder at what point he gave her to Alyssa. Then he says Requiem, and back as Leon, now struggling with his late stage of Raccoon City Syndrome, which affects his vision and movement. We get to fight a room full of Lickers. Did you know you can cut out their tongue if you perfect parry them? We also get this holdout sequence, and then Leon collapses near the entrance of where Zeno is at. Then, back as Grace, we see him on the cameras, collapsed, and we gotta make it back to him, through a place that I assume is Spencer's office, with the Mother Miranda painting. She picks up Leon, and Leon asks her to destroy Alpis, with Zeno waiting for her to put whatever password in. If we pick the wrong password, we get the bad ending, because Leon dies while saving Grace. But what I originally thought was going to be the bad ending in this game on my first playthrough turned out to be the good one, where, yes, Zeno gets Alpis, but Alpis was the ultimate cure to everything, not a mind control virus, as, well, Spencer regretted everything. Zeno then loses his powers and Leon gets cured, but not before Victor Gideon returns, missing one arm, with him being humbled and amazed by Spencer making the ultimate cure that makes all virus-based weapons useless, which will create chaos. And now Victor will bring his vision to life. Then he says, to Zeno the nothing but an imitation line, then slaps his head off, and then stabbing Grace. Oh, and Victor sets the place to blow. Then we get a boss fight against Victor, which involves a lot of parrying, so remember to sharpen your axe. Victor doing this one electric attack, and slam after powering up. He also tries to shoot Leon with a rocket launcher, which can be parried, with him then becoming a flesh monster for his last phase, which is definitely a mistake. He should have become a snake. But instead he becomes a giant nemesis monster, which to defeat you gotta shoot those pustules, and dodge or slash parry his slams, with the ending of the boss fight being Leon getting grabbed, slashing at the last pustule, and then aura farming by blasting him with the Requiem. Then Leon finds Grace, and they both think they can't be saved as the facility is crumbling. But then he gets saved by Chris, boulder punching Redfield's crew, Wolfhound Squad. Then Leon explains to Sherry he has a cure for her, and then explains to Grace that, well, Emily isn't dead as he didn't hit her vitals. Then he pops on his wedding ring, Emily is saved and no longer blind, Leon and Grace are friends, and I've got to say, how is Grace's boss not arrested? This guy has to be like highly suspicious to anyone, right? Then we see the connection sending some people to retrieve an object, either Alpis, Zeno, or something else, and also cleaning up the BSAA to get to their objective. And with all that, the game's done. I will say there are some problems with this game, but I mostly liked it. With the video being done, you can do that stuff, liking and subscribing. My next video I'm planning to cover Chronos the New Dawn. I've already got some of the script done for it, so if you want to see that, obviously you gotta subscribe.